Welcome back to another episode of the Between the Lines podcast. Today, we'll be talking about athletes that were amazing in high school or college, but for whatever reasons, never really made it in the pros. Call them busts, call them injury prone, call them what you want. We're going to get into all that. That being said, Tiago, why don't you start us off today?
Yeah, first of all, I got a couple of mentions of athletes that I wanted to talk about here, but as you all know, this is a topic like it's a bit controversial because we never know if these athletes were ever going to be what they're promised, and some of them are their career shortened by injuries, others by other factors. Just like a topic that is very nice for us to talk about, as some of these athletes might feel like their unaccomplishments were not fair. And to begin with, I'd like to mention one what if that everybody knows about, and that is Derrick Rose. And the reason I'm mentioning Derrick Rose in the first place, it's well, Derrick Rose was the youngest MVP in NBA history, and he just promised a lot. I remember watching him play against my team, the Miami Heat, and I don't know, man. Rose was just looking scary, and he was surrounded by such a good team. You know, like Joakim Noah was with him, and when that injury came up, especially in a game where like the game was already won, as far as I remember, and like Thibodeau let Rose stay in the game, and he ended up getting injured. Something that came. I mean, if you analyze Rose's game tape since college, you always know that he fell awkwardly. Dude was mad athletic, but just his landing was never perfect, and he usually landed on one leg only. And it was just meant to be a disastrous ending for him. But anyways, um, this is one of the biggest what ifs for me because Rose was promising to be uh, just a different player from what we used to. He was just super athletic point guard, reminding us of like the likes of Gilbert Arenas and Baron Davis, but dude was just on another new level. And who knows, like where the Bulls might be if Rose never got injured. You know, like last time the Bulls were champions was still in Michael Jordan era, and the Bulls were definitely in the right way, building around Derrick Rose. A very nice team, like Jimmy Butler coming later as well. So yeah, who knows, man? Maybe the Bulls would have won a ring or two. Maybe D Rose would have won another MVP. We never know.
Yeah, I was reading something the other day that said Joakim Noah actually tried to recruit LeBron James to join up with that
Yeah.
Bulls team
Hmm.
with, Derek, him, and Joakim. And the other thing about Rose is like, obviously he's like always kind of been injury prone, like that's just proved it throughout his career. But he got so high off the court every single time. He elevated so high that it's just like if you come down on a bad ankle, a bad knee, like it's over for you. And obviously he had a few of those injuries where
And he
you know
always landed like that. Like I said, like if you watch his game tape in college, even in high school, like he used to like do these crazy dunks, and then he landed very awkwardly, and you can
yeah.
see that his knees were about to snap. It was just a matter of time, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, that's like that's his game, and then his body, like,
Yeah.
you hate to say
But
it,
he
like, couldn't
adapted.
keep
Like
up, but yeah.
he adapted. That's something we gotta respect about Rose. Like this is a what if because obviously Rose is not the MVP. Is not in the MVP form anymore, and it will never be. But like I think Rose is one of those cases that we can mention as a what if. But the guy still had a pretty nice career. You know, like he managed to revive it. Like when he beat his scoring record, 58 points, if I'm right, with the Timberwolves. That's wild. Like like everybody's saying that you're done, like your career is over, and then you come up with that and like find a way to still be in the league and still be relevant in the league. We gotta have like mad respect for Derrick Rose. Like dude never stopped grinding and working his ass off and adapting his game because his game is definitely way different right now than it used to be.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think not many people could sustain those injuries and come back. And I'm not saying he's an all star or he's a great player, but like he's still relevant. He can still go get some assists, put up a few buckets. Not many guys can come back from all those injuries and do that. So regardless of anything, he still deserves that credit for sure.
Definitely.
Um, so I'll take it here. I'm gonna go with this one hits way too close to home, but Jamarcus Russell, the number one draft pick for the Raiders in 2007. It's an interesting story with Jamarcus, So all of the talent evaluators and GMs in the league, they said, "Hey, man, this guy's surefire. Like he's up. Like if my team was selecting one, he'd be the choice." I don't even need to get into the details. It was terrible. Played like I don't know, maybe like 30 games for the Raiders, threw 5 more interceptions and touchdowns. There's some great stories, though. I want to get into these stories. So, one time, the coaching staff was convinced that he wasn't watching any tape, any game film that they were trying to give him. So one day after practice, they gave him blank tape cassettes because they knew he wasn't going to watch it. He comes back the next day. They said, "So, Jamarcus, what'd you watch?" He's like, "Oh, I was watching blitz packages, just seeing how the D linemen are coming at me." They're like, "Nah, dude, these tapes were blank." The other second story about Jamarcus is, so usually in like training camp, rookies kind of have to do, kind of like a talent show or something, kind of, just do something funny so the vets can laugh at them. Jamarcus said, "Fuck that." He walked up with a huge bag of money and he just threw it all over the floor and just made it rain on the whole team. So the guy was a fucking character. I remember at all his press game conferences, he had all these mink furs on and stuff. Like, if you didn't know he was trash, you would have thought he was the best player in the world by how he acted. And then the last thing I'll say that's the most disappointing thing is Calvin fucking Johnson was the number 2 pick in that draft. Raiders could have had Calvin Johnson, and we took Jamarcus Russell. So I still think about that one. That one still hurts.
That's a pretty funny one. I was actually looking at that one, but I figured you would mention it. It was an Oakland thing, so left that one to you. This one is it's kind of not similar, but kind of still related to both of the stories you guys mentioned, and it is Greg Oden. I know you remember Greg Oden, 2007 draft, goes number 1 to the Trailblazers, and the Trailblazers thought that this was going to be the guy that was going to turn it around. He was balling at Ohio State. There was a lot of hype behind him. Gets to the league, injured ASAP, doesn't play, and we could look back at the draft. Who was the number 2 pick?
KD.
Of course, that money man KD. So that was just a really tough one for them. And then he only ends up playing 4 seasons in the NBA in total. I think he ended with the Heat, maybe.
Yeah, he
did play for a sec there.
Yeah, so ends with the Heat, doesn't do much, and from there it was just like it was all downhill. 4 years, it just a really tough story to hear about. So I know everybody remembers that one. So
yeah,
there's a crazy thing. I'm sorry, Max.
No, go ahead.
It's like I saw like a documentary earlier, and a lot of people still say that if they had to make that decision between Greg Oden and KD, based on the college career, Greg Oden was just a no-brainer.
Yeah,
and yeah, exactly. Like, it's just crazy how injuries could ruin like his career, because guy was just outstanding. It was like people still think he would like it's a no-brainer to pick him ahead of KD.
Yeah, it took an unfortunate turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was listening to this podcast the other day, and Bill Simmons was talking about this. I don't, a lot of people want to peg Oden as being a bust, but when you have injuries like that, it's really out of your hands at that point. It's really unfair for people to say that. But listening to this podcast, I kind of knew this, but what I learned even more so is that a ton of team doctors for teams across the NBA, they looked at Greg Oden and they said, "Hey, this man, he can only play 1 or 2 seasons at most in the NBA. Like, he's already injury prone. Like, his knees are not good. Like, he will not last." So I kind of almost blame it on the Blazers, man. It's like, yeah, we blame Oden, but it's like, come on, like, you guys put a guy in a really tough situation, and I think that's tough. I feel bad for Oden, is what I'm trying to say. I don't think he should get the rap that he does, but it's hard though.
What's tough too is that I also hear about certain teams' training staff. So you hear that certain teams just don't treat certain players right, and that's the reason why. Yeah, certain players just don't get treated right when they have their staff, treating them. So, and they go to a different team, they end up better. So you got to think like, oh, that was an organizational problem. So
Yeah, speaking of which, I think my next pick is also a player that I don't know if it's like most related to injuries, but somehow has injuries related to his career. But I think he's a player that was very, very unfortunate on the play on how the team treated him, and that player is Alex Smith. So Alex Smith was picked in a very awkward scenario because, well, Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers is like. It was meant to be a Niners. Aaron Rodgers is a fan of the San Francisco 49ers since as a young age, and everybody expected him to play for the Niners. And then this guy, Alex Smith, comes in, and he's picked. And, well, we all know that Aaron Rodgers ended up having a better career than Alex Smith. But, man, Alex Smith, at first considered a bust, by the 49er fans. And then suddenly he wakes up and he makes a huge, huge season. But what happens? Who gets injured and Colin Kaepernick comes in? And well, the rest is basically history. Kaepernick just takes over and ends up going to a Super Bowl. So then, like, Alex Smith goes to the Chiefs. And once again, Alex Smith kind of finds some success. Like, if you see some of the Chiefs players say that the guy that made this team happen before Mahomes was Alex Smith. Alex Smith was playing with Travis Kelce and all these young guns like that Mahomes is playing right now. And even Mahomes says Alex Smith is a great mentor. So once again, Alex Smith is having a great season. He's proving to be a great quarterback, and then Mahomes takes over. And then Alex Smith goes to the Redskins, and damn, that injury is just...
Yeah.
Well, you know, I feel like Alex Smith we will always be a what if. And I think it's not just mainly because of injuries, but I don't think the teams never believed him enough after he was considered a bust. Because, I mean, if you look at it, if you look at the seasons that Alex Smith was out actually playing good, Alex Smith was putting up numbers, man. Like, and like the dude is a hard-working QB, and that says a lot about you. For example, the first guy you said, Max, you could say he was a bust because the guy just didn't care. Like, he didn't watch game tape. The guy just didn't hustle enough. And Alex Smith is exactly the opposite. Being called bust on your first and second season is not easy. Like, I remember watching this video. I think it was against the Saints, and the 49er fans was just booing at him in the home game. Like, you're playing at home. You're not supposed to be uncomfortable with your home fans, like, booing at you and making you feel like, well, you're a bust. And this guy came back. This guy actually made some good for the Niners and the Chiefs, and he's still working out, trying to come back for the Redskins. Because, like, I feel like the Redskins could use Alex Smith right now. You know, they have a young QB, but he's unexperienced, and he kind of needs a tutor. And what else than the guy who helped Colin Kaepernick and Patrick Mahomes become successful? So, yeah, I feel like Alex Smith could have had a great career, especially when things started to work out in the Niners. Who knows if Alex Smith would have won that Super Bowl against the Ravens? You can never tell. You know, that was his team. He was good for that system, and I feel bad for Alex Smith. I hope he comes back to the NFL after that gruesome injury. But for me, it would always be like a huge what if. I'm a fan of the guy personally, so.
Yeah, I think one thing that people kind of tend to forget, I think he had a rough shake with the Niners. Put it this way, he was the number one pick. He came in, and that Niners team was trash. I'm talking god awful. Didn't have weapons around him. And I think everybody says they don't care. You know, you're the number one pick. It doesn't matter who's playing next to you. You should be able to ball, right? And in reality, it doesn't always work that way. We've seen a number of guys come into the league and be in bad situations, not, you know, find an ability to succeed. But I think you hit a great point there too. I think what really proves testament to Alex Smith's character and just his, you know, leadership as a quarterback is how he mentored Patrick Mahomes. He could have pulled the Brett Favre and said, nah, fuck this, man. Like, this is my job. You're coming in here trying to take this from me. But he said, no, you know, you're the future. I'm going to teach you what I know and, you know, let your talent take over. And I think that anybody that has that humility and is able to kind of take a step back, and I think that's awesome. So I think Alex Smith, you know, didn't start great, but the latter stages of his career were pretty freaking awesome.
Definitely a guy to respect.
I gotta agree with that one. Like when I think of Alex Smith, I honestly just think of like his time with the Chiefs. I know he's with the Niners, but I just think of like, oh, he had like a decent time with the Chiefs. Like he was a decent player. Hard to hate on him.
For sure. I'm gonna go back to basketball. So I got Darko Milicic, 2003 draft, obviously headlined by LeBron James. So the Pistons take Milicic at 2. He's Serbian. He's like 6'10", 6'11", but kind of a stretch, not like a really big guy. I think career-wise, he only averaged about 6 points a game, something like 4 rebounds. So yeah, it didn't work out. 100% a bust. But the funny thing is he did play about 10 years in the league. So, you know, it wasn't like it was, you know, 3 years and out. But where it really gets hard to kind of talk about Milicic is LeBron went 1, he went 2. And then you think about 3, 4, and 5. We talked about this other day, man. You got Dwayne Wade, Carmelo, and Chris Bosh, man. That's tough. When you're the Pistons, man, that's tough. You know, they've been kicking themselves for years. If you could have had Melo or D Wade on that team, it's a franchise changer right there. So I think Milicic will always be known as a bust, and Pistons fans will, you know, never forget that name.
You know what's crazy about the Pistons office about drafting him is that Milicic said openly that he didn't like playing basketball. That's true. That's true. Like he said it. Like he said that basketball was a hobby for him. Like dude was good.
It's not a great sign, man.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like if you're the Pistons, why are you gonna draft a guy that as good as he was in Europe, that he was good? Guy also said that didn't like playing basketball. So like he said openly that he played with the Pistons for the money. He went to the NBA for the money. The guy didn't like playing basketball, and he ended up winning a ring. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
That is pretty fucking crazy.
All right, so I'm gonna stay with basketball on this one too, and I'm gonna go to 2013 NBA draft. The number 1 pick, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Anthony Bennett.
Damn it, you took mine.
Bruh, I'm sorry, but y'all have those moments where you just like you remember where you were, you remember like your reaction, like
Yeah.
This was one of those, and like I'm not a Cavs fan or anything, but I'm sitting there watching the draft as a basketball fan, and I hear the name Anthony Bennett, and I just stop. I'm like, we had a new TV, by the way, so that's how I remember it. Brand new TV in the living room, big screen, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, what? Like what just happened? Who is this guy? Like I understand like he had a decent career in college, but what? That's all I could say. And I mean, he goes on. He averages like 4 points in the career, and it was just downhill. He played on the Cavs a little bit, jumping team to team, hit the G League for a while, and then now I think he's overseas. So it's just Anthony Bennett. I don't know what to say to that one. I was just shocked. I think everybody was shocked. So.
I think what ruined his career was actually the fact that it was the first pick. So like I feel like Anthony Bennett could have been like a nice role player if he didn't have all that pressure. You know what I'm saying? Like, because the guy he has a nice build, and he was nice in college. Like the guy is strong, he's tall, but he's just not a first round. He's not even a first round pick. That's what I'm saying. Like, if he was like a late first round or just accepting to be a role player, the guy could have been not, could have still be in the league, but crazy.
So I have two thoughts on that one. That 2013 draft was so weak. There was no talent in that draft. So that's one of the reasons why he obviously went 1. And then he played like 50 games with the Cavs. He didn't play in year 2 with the Cavs because you guys remember he was in the trade with Andrew Wiggins to the Timberwolves for Kevin Love.
That's right.
LeBron came back to Cleveland in 2014, and LeBron's like, man, he's like, I don't think I can win with this guy. We're sending him out. Yeah, man. Good trade in retrospect. Wiggins hasn't. I mean, Wiggins is. I'll leave that story for something else. Wiggins is so.
Yeah, but I mean, the GM LeBron had to come in and do what he had to do. So. And also, it'd be tough. It's tough too because who knows? Maybe he would have fit better in another team. Maybe at a later pick with less pressure around, like you said, Tiago. But it's just the fact that he's the number 1 pick in the draft, and if you're the number 1 pick in the draft, you got to be something. So
yeah, definitely. And I'm gonna talk about a first round pick too, but this one is very different than the context. I feel like you guys mentioned 2 guys that were instantly draft busts. I'm gonna stick with the NFL again. I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite players all time, Michael Vick. So I think like a lot of people might think Michael Vick is not a what if because he came back to the Eagles and wherever. But listen, at some point in the football world, Michael Vick was the Allen Iverson version of the NFL. So you couldn't have like a hip hop video clip without Michael Vick being there. Otherwise, it was not legit. Michael Vick was everywhere. Michael Vick was the face of the video game franchise Madden. Michael Vick was the face of the NFL, and the guy was just the most funny and entertaining person to watch live. So he was just a symbol of Atlanta. That being said, Michael Vick's career kind of had a twisted turn of events since of the dogfighting incident, and we all know that he came back to the Eagles, and he actually had a pretty good extent with the Eagles. But just imagine if Michael Vick never was arrested, what could have been for that Atlanta team? Because Atlanta never had a Super Bowl, or at least that I know. And the closest they have been is that Matt Ryan run, and we all know what happened there. But
hey, they were pretty fucking close, man. They found a way to close.
They were way too close. But just imagine if Michael Vick stayed in Atlanta.
So it's more than just the winning factor because the Falcons are not that big of a franchise right now. But I feel like if Michael Vick was there until now or until he retired, the Falcons would be at least one of the most famous NFL franchises at this moment because like they were while Michael Vick was there because everybody was talking about it. He was on commercials wearing that Falcon jersey. He was on music videos. He was everywhere. Everywhere you watch the NFL logo, Michael Vick was probably there. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, if the Falcons manage to keep him there without being arrested and a nice team around him, that might lead to some Super Bowls. That might lead to the Falcons being one of the best franchises right now. Who knows? Maybe he was like, maybe even Tom Brady wouldn't win a Super Bowl against him. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Tom Brady legacy never happened. I don't know. It's something crazy to think about. But for me, it's still one of the biggest what ifs. I mean, I'm glad the guy came back. And once again, like Alex Smith, I have mad respect for Michael Vick, keep grinding. And he acknowledged his bad actions. He respected his time in jail. And he came back and he still balled with Deshaun Jackson in the Eagles. That's a crazy team. But, man, like, you can never, like, stop and think about what could have been if Michael Vick was in the league the whole time, you know?
For real. I have two thoughts about Michael Vick. So I'm asking you guys this question. So I'm going to say Warren Moon. But name me the first African American quarterback besides Michael Vick that was really the truth in the NFL. In my mind, that's immediately like I'm talking about, the early 2000s. Like, I don't know, I don't think there was many like real African American quarterbacks that were really good in the league before that. And he came in and took the league by storm. And I think like, I think for a while there was kind of like a weird narrative where like for whatever reasons, like there wasn't a lot of African Americans playing quarterback, and he totally changed that. Now you look at the league now, and you find them anywhere, and a lot of them are some of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I think that's one interesting thing when it comes to Michael Vick. And then secondly, think about like the world we're living in now, where it's like that cancel culture. It's like if you do something wrong, we're gonna call you out. Michael Vick went to jail for fighting dogs. This man changed the narrative entirely. He's on Fox Sports every single Sunday. Like he's on all these huge networks in America. Like I don't know many people that, have gotten some hot water and kind of changed the narrative as well as he has. Cause I think it comes down to what you said, Thiago. He kind of owned up to everything that he did. And I don't know. I think he's just, I think it changed him a lot and he's just a good dude now. I mean, I don't know him, but from the
I
outside
mean,
in, that's what it kind of
he
looks like.
accepted the consequences. That's how you gotta respect. Like, there's a lot. Like, when it comes to celebrities, we know like that's a big hypocrisy right now. If people talk shit about Michael Vick, you gotta talk shit about all the celebrities that do shit. The only difference is that those celebrities don't own up. Some
Yeah.
celebrities run out of jail, or run from jail because they can just pay the bail. And they do way worse things than Michael Vick. I'm not defending the fact that the dog fighting was a low thing or a low crime because it's a terrible crime and it's nothing to be an excuse. But dude, like some celebrities did way worse. I feel like beating up your wife or like raping or like being accused of shit like that is way worse than dog fighting.
Oh,
And
for
once again,
sure.
I'm not saying dog fighting is a low crime, but come on, man, like,
Yeah,
and the
absolutely.
dude owned it up. Like the dude admitted his mistake. He served his time in jail like a normal person because that's what Michael Vick was all the time. He was a real person. Michael Vick, although he was a superstar, Michael Vick was always real. Michael Vick was always real, and he always try to be real for the fans. I think that's one of the things I respect about that guy the most because I saw his documentary Vic a while ago, and that's a very good documentary by Bleacher Report, and that's what it is. Michael Vick was just true to himself all the time, and that's why he still came back to the league after serving jail, and he's still given a chance, and he was able to apologize. And I mean, it's sad that the Falcons never retired that 7 because now a kicker is using it, but I feel like Michael Vick will always be like, for me, he'll always be a Hall of Famer in the NFL for his attitude and for what he meant for the league. Like you said, he changed the game. The guy did something different. It was just on a different level than anyone else in the league, and that will always be a part of the NFL history for sure.
Facts. Real quick, it's good that like he's back. Like he's on the sidelines. Still commentating. Like he's able to like turn everything around. But like once again, you can't help but to think, what would it be like if he was actually on that field? Because I know so many people, how we treat things like Steph and all that. Like anytime we do anything, or like my fault, like Kobe, Like, you're throwing a trash or you're throwing something at the trash, you're shouting Kobe's name. Now, when people say when they're hooping or whatever, Curry range, whatever, I know when we were out there playing football, someone's always mentioning something about Vic and all that. So you just can't help but to think like how different like maybe the game or like just even like the Atlanta franchise would be if he was still playing that. So
Yeah. The last thing I'll say, like, hell of a player, hell of a comeback from prison to back to balling again. But the what I really remember, what I'll always remember most about Michael Vick is just when I was in high school, turning on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, and Mike Vick's just dropping back 8 yards and just tossing bombs to
Yeah.
Deshaun Jackson. I'm talking bombs, just throwing it 70 yards, and DJX is just sprinted. That shit was crazy. I don't think I've even still to this day, Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill are incredible, man. But
I
Mike Vick
can't throw like that, man.
yeah, Mike Vick and DJX did it first, though. That's for sure.
It was very fun to watch those two.
Absolutely.
sure.
All right, I'm gonna go football again. 2006. So Vince Young was the number 3 pick in the draft to the Tennessee Titans. Number 10 was Matt Leinart to the Arizona Cardinals. So funny enough, these two actually faced each other in the national championship before they walked away from their college careers. Obviously, we talked about this on another show. The Longhorns won, but Vince Young had a good first year, had a solid second year, but there's a lot of stories related to mental health issues for him and him not really having such a great relationship with the former head coach Jeff Fisher there. So for me, Vince Young's always kind of like, what if players? What if the team was different? What if the culture was different? Could he, if there was if he had the support that he needed, could he have been great? I kind of wonder like that. Obviously with Matt Leinart, going to the Cardinals, he played a year or two, was a backup for a long time in the league, probably for a few years. Never really did much. But I just always think back, like, God, those guys are so amazing in college, man. Vince Young at Texas and Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart at USC. Being a young kid, I was like, man, these guys are going to be ballers in the pros. And I was just shocked that it didn't really work out for either one of those. I'm not necessarily, tagging the bust label on both of them, but they just had really bad careers. So I guess that does mean it is the bust label.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That Vince Young one is just a tough one.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't even have nothing.
I think you got to consider it a bust, though, right?
I think you do.
Yeah,
I didn't want to, but I think you do. I think you really do.
Yeah. All right. So my last one is more of a funny one for me. It's Kwame Brown.
Yeah.
So all I remember is just as a hooper back in NC, anytime anybody does anything, I remember being called him a couple times too. When you play bad or when you're doing anything bad. I remember this one kid just straight up just yelling at me across the court, man, you hoop just like Kwame Brown after one of the worst games I played, and it was like a bad practice, all that. So
the biggest insult ever.
I know, and I'm just sitting there like, damn. I just got called Kwame Brown. That's crazy. But, you got this guy. He got drafted to the Wizards. Then he went to the Lakers. Then he went here and there. It's a typical bust story. Like, he wasn't that good. And once again, you don't know if it's that he wasn't that good or he just couldn't translate his game to the NBA for whatever reason, whatever. But it just wasn't a good career. And there it is. People just know Kwame Brown is not the best. You just don't want to be called that. That's all I know.
Yeah, for sure. From what I've read, obviously he's been out of the league for a while, but just reading stuff over the years, I think he was really fucking lazy. He didn't really try that hard. He was out of shape a lot of the time. Have you guys heard the story about Michael Jordan clowning on him though?
Yes.
Oh
yes.
man! Apparently, one time Michael Jordan just eviscerated this cat.
It really pushed the line. It really pushed the line with Kwame.
I mean, as we've seen, with the documentary "The Last Dance," Jordan, has said quite a lot of shit to a lot of different teammates. Probably a lot of different times crossing the line. But I think Kwame, maybe wasn't the most mentally tough guy, and I think I don't know. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. There was this moment at practice where Jordan just laid into him, and
Jordan said that the fact that he was so mad is because he knew Kwame could have been a great player. Like he saw the talent in him, the guy was just so lazy, and Jordan got so mad because it looked like Kwame just didn't care.
And we all know how competitive he is. Like if you're playing with him and you have all this potential and you're just not putting it on the court, he's just gonna bash you. It's gonna make you feel like you're shit.
For real.
They pushed the line. And speaking of the Wizards, my last one is also a very very known Wizards player and a big what if. Agent Zero, Gilbert Arenas. Oh hell yeah, guys! He's still out there talking. He's a great sportscaster. I love hearing him talk. He's mad funny. His comments on Instagram, he's everywhere. But at some point, he was like a great player for the Wizards. Like I would say. So this is a fun fact. I simulated a career in 2K with Gilbert Arenas being redrafted, and the guy was MVP of the league 5 times. I'm like, what? That's crazy, but like, dude was mad athletic. Like, if we're talking about the athleticism of Derrick Rose, Agent Zero was the same, but with a 3-point range, guy was just outstanding. And then that gun incident happened, and the whole controversy, because we all know, like, Gilbert Arenas, he says it nowadays that he was not the most mentally stable guy on court. So if you pick a fight with him, he was going to pick a fight with you. He was going to take it to the next level. And that's what happened with the gun incident. And he tried to revive his career later on, but it was just too late and people just stopped believing in him. And we all know how teams react to players like that. It just doesn't work out anymore. But if Gilbert Arenas kept quiet, let's say quiet or calm, and just focus on basketball, dude is mad talented. He was actually carrying that Wizards team, and the Wizards, the Wizards never had that such a big team, and the Wizards were never on the map. If you think that, like, maybe they were on the map when Michael Jordan was there, but Jordan was at the end of his career. But just imagine, like, maybe Arenas could have put like the Wizards on the map. Maybe won like an NBA title or even like an MVP award as a Wizards player. That's something, like that's something to put the team on the map. I don't know, man. Let me know your thoughts about Agent Zero. I know you guys know him well.
I fuck with Agent Zero, man.
Yeah.
Hibachi Killer, dude. He's a savage for sure. He's funny as hell. He was cold. I think people really forget about what he actually could do on the floor, man. He could do it down low. He could get to the rim with ease, like step backs behind the like he could do it all. He was injury prone at certain points during his career. There was that team in Washington when they had Antoine Jameson. They were actually pretty good. They had that series against the Cavs in the playoffs where Braun clowned Arenas on the free throw line, and it kind of ended there. You remember that? Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Trying to mess up his routine.
Yeah, I think Gilbert was an awesome player, but kind of from listening to him talk and just stories throughout the past, I don't think he always took basketball maybe as seriously as he should have.
Exactly.
Possibly, which isn't, it's not for me to say, I'm not him, I can't say, but it seemed for a while there that he was just, he got his money when he got traded from the Warriors to the Wizards. He got a whole lot of money, and I know he was at the strip club a lot. He talks about that on his podcast and stuff. So I don't know. I think Gilbert had a good time. That's what I'll say about that, and he was also really good at basketball.
Yeah, he was amazing. I remember that's the sole reason why I was like into watching the Wizards play, that and their jerseys, because that blue logo, that was kind of tough. But pretty much from there it was downhill. I had no reason to watch the Wizards, and then they're not relevant to me. So
I gotta get one of those blue jerseys. I've been looking everywhere to find
Arenas blue jersey.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's a really nice. I see everybody, like, when someone buys a Wizards old school jersey, they always buy the Jordan one. I mean, it's tough. It's a Jordan jersey, whatever. But like that Zero in a blue jersey, or even those white and gold jerseys. You remember the gold jerseys?
Yeah,
with the stars on the side. Oh my god, that's a hell of a tough jersey with the Zero on the back. I'd buy that shit for sure.
Yeah, I know. I just know that because of Gilbert Arenas, that's why I'm watching them and their jersey. So it was just a combo of both, and then he's a bucket. So it was someone to watch on the Wizards.
Yeah, he has a few signature shoes with Adidas that are pretty cool too. Obviously, kind of retro from kind of the shoes that we look at now. But I remember, like, way back then, those were it. Like, those were the shoes. People were hella hyped about those ones. So I just have a few honorable mentions now. So I want to talk about this guy right here, Michael Jordan went number 3 in the draft. There's a guy by the name of Sam Bowie that went number 2. Never did anything in the league. So Portland's kicking themselves for that one.
Again.
It wasn't the worst. It wasn't the worst though. He kind of.
I'm just saying, you're talking about Michael freaking Jordan. But
yeah, you look at all the great players. You got to think that in every draft, somebody goofed.
But it's not MJ. It's like you skipping the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I didn't know that.
No, you're right though. It wasn't like he was, like washed. It's just he unfairly gets compared to Michael Jordan, obviously, for being the pick right ahead of him.
Yeah.
And then I have one more honorable mention, and then one more player I actually do want to talk about. Ryan Leaf, the quarterback drafted by the San Diego Chargers. So Ryan Leaf was drafted directly after Peyton Manning. Thank God for the Colts that they made the right decision and drafted big-headed Peyton. But yeah, Ryan Leaf, really struggled as a pro. I think he had some addiction issues and some mental health problems too. It didn't really fare well. I know after his career ended, he got arrested for I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think it was robbery or something. So I think there was just some big problems all the way through. Leaf will hopefully he's turned his life around, but Leaf will for sure be remembered as a bust, no doubt. But the last person that I really do want to talk about, and he's not a bust, but I just remember in college saying, man, this guy's gonna be incredible. Jabari Parker, man. Oh man, at Duke, he was just so nice. He had an outside game. He could go into the post and get buckets. And it's, obviously he's not on the level of D Rose, but it's just injuries, right? Now he's in Sacramento, coming off the bench as a role player. And I think he's solid, I think he might, not on the level of Derrick Rose, but I think he will be able to, kind of, as he continues to age in the league, still be serviceable for teams, He'll be able to do a few different things, right?
Those knees, though, man. It was just right at the start, as soon as the career started. It was supposed to be the next Melo, and his knees, man.
Yeah, watching at Duke, it was just so fun to watch him play. And I was, pretty young, too. I don't know, maybe a senior in high school or something. But I was like, God, this guy's just really fun to watch. His game's pretty complete. I think he'll really, excel at the next level. So I think it's always funny when you see those players, in college. And it just makes you think, what went wrong? Obviously, in this case, his injuries, though.
Him and Jahlil Okafor, they're in the same thing. I remember thinking the same thing about Jahlil Okafor. This is a decent center. He's gonna play good. And
different reasons, though. I mean, I think Jabari was kind of betrayed by his knees just at the beginning. As soon as he got injured, people started looking at him the bugs started looking at him this guy is not worth it. The big money. So. But before you guys move on about Ryan Leaf, I wanted to say something about Ryan Leaf. I think Ryan Leaf, although he was the biggest bust in NFL history by some people's opinion, I think Ryan Leaf brought something to the league that is still very valuable in these days. So I think at some point before that draft, scouts only looked at numbers, numbers and statistics in college. And they never cared about the psychological side of the player. So Ryan Leaf was always a hot-headed guy in college. There's stories in college that Ryan Leaf was screaming at the staff, was screaming at everybody that just opposed him. You know what I'm saying? So if something went wrong at practice, Ryan Leaf would bash. It was just not a nice teammate. Although he was a very skillful QB, it was just not a good person. You wouldn't want to play with him. And I remember in the Chargers, that locker room interview that everybody can see it on YouTube right now, where he starts screaming at the reporter. I think it throws something at the reporter. It's just what the hell, dude? You know what I'm saying? This guy under pressure is bullshit. Because in college, I mean, it's all fun and games because college doesn't say shit about you, only that you're good. And if college hides everything and just shows how good you are in the field, all right, fine. But once you get exposed, once you do a tiny mistake in the NFL and you have to answer those reporters and you have to answer the fans, that's when you're going to show how tough mentally you are. And Ryan Leaf was anything but mentally tough. That's why the guy ended up committing crimes. He ended up almost ruining his life. I'm not going to say ruin his life, but dude is in a good spot right now. I think he's working as a reporter, sports analyst, whatever. But what I'm saying is in the NFL right now, people value the psychological side of the players right now. So you actually pay attention to what these guys do in college and how good of a teammate they are and if they are a toxic person or not. And I think that's very important in today's NFL. You know, like if you draft a player for all skill 40 days, we all saw like Latrice Sprewell was kind of a toxic player. You know what I'm saying? Hey, it is. He
Yeah,
is.
no, for sure.
He's
100%.
very skillful. He's very skillful, and he was a great player for the Timberwolves. But did he win anything with them? Was he a good teammate? Hell nah. And like Kobe and Jordan, you can say they were toxic as hell, but somehow they managed to push the team to the next level. And although they were very toxic with their teammates, at the end of the day, they were leaders. And Ryan Leaf and Latrice Sprewell and tons of other examples, they were just not. They were just bad teammates and bad leaders. So I don't know. It's something I wanted to mention here about Ryan Leaf because it's very relevant and it's something that's still talked about these days.
Kyle, you got any more?
Nah, that's all for me.
All right, I have two thoughts, and then we're gonna dive into some of the moments that we talked about earlier, Kyle. So I think kind of what you were saying, Tiago. Now, like in the world that we live in, when it comes to social media and just athletes being on pedestals now, you can't hide those things that you used to be able to hide.
Mhm.
Colleges can't hide the fact that guys are bad character guys, that they don't mesh well in the locker room, because clubs or NFL teams, basketball teams, whatever it is, they're gonna find out about those things, and obviously organizations mostly care about your play on the field, but those things do carry weight now. And the last point is, a lot of people get labeled as busts. I think as sports fans and sports culture, we're too early sometimes to try and label people as
Ooh,
busts.
I
And
hate
I
that.
think that's really tough. But I want to say about players that kind of get a bad rap in the first year, 2 or 3 of their careers, and they're able to keep mentally fighting and keep physically pushing. And a guy that comes to mind immediately is JJ Redick. He started with the Magic, and he didn't do much. Like
He struggled.
he struggled, and it was a tough climb. But now you just think about his rise. He was with the Clippers, he was with the Sixers, now he's with NOLA, and just guys like that are able to just keep pushing and carve out a really good career. I think that's awesome. I always think those are great stories in sports.
Even bigger than JJ Redick, Markel Fultz. It's an example that we all following right now. Guy was thrown under the bus by the Sixers. And Kyle, you mentioned like some teams. We kind of forget that some teams, the medical staff are just horrible. Like, how in the hell do you draft Joel Embiid and he gets injured? You draft Ben Simmons and he gets injured. You draft Markel Fultz and he gets injured. That's crazy. I'm sorry to say. I mean, I don't want to be a Sixers hater, but come on, man. Like, how is that possible? Like just deja vu after deja vu. And what happens with Markel is that the Sixers were pressured so much to put him into the field that he made the kid play injured, made the guy look bad because his shoulder was fucked and he couldn't shoot for nothing. And then they throw him under the bus, saying that the team's success that was supposed to rise with Markel Fultz playing alongside Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid was all because Markel Fultz was not playing nice. And social media was all over his bad shoulder and his bad jump shot. And how the hell does Markel Fultz doesn't shoot a free throw now? Like, the dude was thrown under the bus. The word bust was labeled to him on his first year, and he still prevailed. So like Markel Fultz was given, I'd say given, I don't say traded. It was given to Orlando for nothing, and he's balling. He's balling in Orlando, and I love that. And I hate the Sixers franchise for what they did to Markel. I hope Markel ends up becoming a great player. I won't say the player he was meant to be because his shoulder and his jump shot, it's tough to come back from that. But Markel is a nice player. I like Fultz. I have mad respect for him. I respect the hell of his attitude, like staying calm, not saying shit on social media. Guy is super chill. He's doing charity events. He's always supporting nice movements. He's doing the right thing on social media, off the court. And on the court, he's grinding. He's grinding and grinding. He's not acting like a first-round pick that thinks he's better than everyone else. No, dude is grinding, and he's playing like a normal basketball player. He doesn't think he's a superstar. He doesn't think he's better than anyone. He's just doing his job and doing his part in Orlando. And that's what makes him a great player. And that's what I think he will find success. Even if it doesn't, he's not the athletic player he was, but he will find success, even as a backup player. And mad respect for players like Markel Fultz, like JJ Redick, players that survive the bust. Because surviving being a bust, that stuff, man. And Alex Smith did the same. So, mad respect for being mentally tough and still grinding.
definitely.
Absolutely. Should we just go into these moments here? Kyle, you got some for me?
Um, we get hit one. I'll hit one real quick. So just the one we were talking about. Um, just what would happen if KD and Klay Thompson were not injured last year? You can't help but to think about it. Like, if Klay Thompson was still playing, let's say, all right, KD still got injured, but let's say Klay Thompson was straight. Would it be a different game? Like, what would it be? Because when I was watching the game, I'm seeing that the Warriors are gonna win this. Klay Thompson's about to go off. Like he was snapping, he was out
going
there
hard.
balling, and it would have been a different game. And who knows? I don't know if KD was still planning to leave. I don't know what was going on. I just kind of wonder like would things be like slightly different? How would everything look now? And shoot, if KD was back, like would they have actually like swept them? Would they just beat them 5-4-1? Would they, it's just a lot of questions you got to think about there. So that's just my biggest what if I think of off the top.
Okay, so the first question: if KD and Thompson stay healthy, the Warriors win.
Yes.
And sweep or 5-1.
Mhm.
5 or 6.
For sure.
Because that Toronto Raptors team was playing great basketball. They were really gelling as a unit. Like it was just going really well. Kyle was doing his thing. Van Fleet, Lowry, Gasol. It was really good. But the Warriors win.
Yeah.
I think if Thompson stays healthy, it's a damn
Yeah.
near a coin toss.
They
Honestly,
were coming back. They were getting the
Nah,
momentum for
I
that.
think they were going to win that one. I
With
think all
Thompson?
they needed was play.
but
Listen, if Thompson was healthy, I think they win.
okay, no, that's fair. I can respect that. I just think Toronto was playing really, really good basketball, but I do understand that if Thompson stays healthy, it's pretty lethal. That Warriors
Clay was going off.
He was
on
going
those
hard.
series.
No, it
Before
wouldn't
he
have been
got
no
injured,
walk in the park though. But that I think they would
Yeah,
have.
Clay won the game alone. Like when it was like 3-1, or I don't remember. But Clay won a game alone. The game before he got injured, he was clutch. Like Toronto was just speechless. He was scoring after, like
No,
he was just scoring crazy.
he was torching it from behind the line for sure. But where I want to take this even further is here. Say KD stays healthy, Thompson stays. All right, let's just say hypothetically Thompson goes down, but KD stays healthy. The Warriors win that finals. Does KD leave? Does he leave? Does he want to leave the Warriors?
From what I was hearing, or from what I think I was hearing, I think KD was going to be out regardless.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you also got to think that maybe a championship would have changed his mind or what. And then
That's what I'm thinking.
remember, I'm pretty sure like him and Draymond argued earlier in the season, and
Yeah.
for
Oh,
whatever
that was
reason,
huge.
Draymond goofed.
Draymond called him a whole bunch of bad words we don't need to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think he's out of there regardless. Which
And KD
kinda
wanted to prove something. He was also he was talking to Kyrie way before so him and Kyrie were already planning to leave both together, either to the Knicks or to the Nets.
just want you to know I called it. Just saying.
Yeah, and KD, like he said, like he was on a mission, like he wanted to prove something because people say that his rings didn't count, so he wanted to, like, win a ring by himself or whatever.
Right.
Or
Yeah. So last thought I have, just unrelated to this, is I think this is why we love sports, right? You think to yourself, what if Russell Wilson doesn't throw that pass on the goal line? What if Marshawn Lynch runs it in the end zone? What if Ray Allen doesn't make that 3-pointer in the corner? We love
Say that.
sports because they're unpredictable. You never know what you're going to see. You love your team, you ride with them, and you hope for the best. But as somebody that's just watching casually or is just watching to see a good game, I think that's what makes sports is just tune in any given night and any given thing can happen.
Hey, to wrap this up, just let me know your thoughts on this. You all talked about the Raptors and they won their first NBA championship, but let me know your thoughts on one of the biggest what ifs when it comes to moments in teams. What if T-Mac and Vince Carter never left the Raptors?
Yeah.
Let me know. Like, do you think they would like develop as the players? Because like T-Mac went off with the injuries, that's all. But T-Mac, like as soon as he left the Raptors, he developed to be an all-star. Like, dude was just balling. So do you think he would develop the same way? Do you think the Raptors could have gotten somewhere? Because the Raptors never provided Vince Carter with a nice team. That's true. That's why Carter left. Like, he was always playing with bums, that, if I can say it that way. So I don't know, man. Like, if Chris Bosh ended up going to that same Raptors team, with T-Mac and Vince. Just think about it for a second. Do you think the Raptors would be like a big franchise now, or do you think they would have won an early NBA title? I'm really curious about your thoughts, actually.
What you got, Kyle?
I mean, they could be. You couldn't. You never know. I'm indifferent either way. You know, like you're saying, there's a lot of players you could pair together or who were together in the early years and just think like, oh, maybe this organization could have been different. So maybe
Listen,
maybe they would have.
This is a beautiful thing because like they're cousins. You know, it's like a family business running in Toronto. So that's like poetic. That's what people like in sports. You know, you like a nice background story. And these guys, they found out they were cousins like 1 year or two before going to the NBA. That like a Christmas dinner. That's crazy. You know, that's like the perfect story to make a franchise go big. So Toronto is not on the map in basketball. These two guys that found out they were cousins 2 years ago, they start balling together, and they ended up bringing a championship to Toronto. That would have been beautiful. You know, never happened, but still two legends made in Toronto.
First thing is, I almost actually mentioned Tracy McGrady. He's nowhere near a bust. Of course not. But he is one of those what if guys, you know, the injuries they just took such a toll on him throughout his career. And I always just wonder, like, if he was one of those guys like D Rose that could have just gone through the league completely healthy, what would his, ultimate legacy be? But answering the question about the Raptors, personally, I don't know if it could have worked out. They play really similar positions just in terms of kind of what they do on the floor.
And it wasn't positionless basketball then.
Right, exactly.
They were running true to the position. So,
but I think in today's game, fuck it, why not, man? Just go out there and have at it.
Hey, these guys were shooters, and you still had Del Curry on that team. So that's three guys that can shoot the ball from three. That's tough, you know. And Bosch coming to that team, ooh, I don't know, man. You still got that little Muggsy Bogues playing at the point guard.
Dude.
That's a funny team. That would be a funny thing. That would be a funny thing.
Yes. Episode number 11, talking about the great players in high school and college sports that for whatever reasons never made it in the pros. Bust, injury prone, whatever it is. We covered it all today. That's a wrap. We'll be back Tuesday of next week. Peace, y'all.
And for everyone that follows us, we'll be launching our Twitter platform. Probably by the time this episode airs, the Twitter will be up and functional. So that's a new way for you guys to interact with us. We'll try to be as active as possible. Try to keep in touch with sports news. So y'all feel free to follow us and help us comment on what's going on in sports right now.
Yes, sir.